Hello, and welcome to TerraNash. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. Let's take this time together to step away from the rush of the day and ease into a world of dreams and wonder. Tonight, we'll visit a beautiful, serene garden. A garden that belongs to Amaterasu, the gentle sun goddess. Her garden is full of glowing flowers, peaceful creatures, and the soft hum of light that fills the air. In this magical place, a young child named Kiko is about to learn something precious. A secret about the light we all carry within, and how sharing that light with the world can bring warmth, peace, and healing to those around us. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening from? And what time is it as you settle in to hear this story? We'd also love to know what kinds of stories you'd enjoy next. Your thoughts and suggestions inspire us, so please share them in the comments below. If you'd like even more from us, you can check out our Patreon for early access to all our stories and a curated Spotify playlist to accompany you. Oh, and I wanted to share an important update with you. Currently, less than 10% of our viewers are subscribed to the channel, which means more than 90% of you haven't subscribed yet. If you've been enjoying our bedtime stories, subscribing is a simple and free way to support us. Reaching 1,000 subscribers will allow us to remove all mid-roll ads, ensuring a completely uninterrupted and relaxing experience for you. Your support means the world to us, and together we can make TerraNash an even more peaceful place for storytelling. At the moment, we aim to remove all mid-roll ads from our videos to provide a seamless and uninterrupted viewing experience. Unfortunately, we are unable to do so because we have not yet reached the threshold required to gain control over ad placements. As you listen to this story, let the soothing imagery of the garden and the quiet beauty of its light fill your mind. Imagine the warmth of the sun, the gentle breeze, and the soft sounds of nature surrounding you. Let go of any thoughts or worries and allow yourself to embrace the peaceful rhythm of the story. In the quiet embrace of Amaterasu's garden, everything is calm, everything is peaceful, and the world feels at rest. So, relax and allow the story to guide you into a place of stillness and serenity. Now take one more deep breath and let's begin. In the vast expanse of the heavens, beyond the drifting clouds and the endless horizon, there existed a garden unlike any other. This was the Celestial Garden of Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun. It lay in a realm where time had no meaning and light stretched endlessly in every direction. The flowers in the garden were not like any found in the mortal world. They shimmered with an inner glow, each petal a delicate flame of gold. They bloomed with grace, their soft fragrance carrying through the air like the whispers of forgotten dreams. The trees stood tall, their branches heavy with fruits that glistened like rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. Birds, whose wings sparkled with the colors of the dawn, flew from branch to branch, singing melodies that made the very air vibrate with joy. The animals, foxes with fur as bright as the first rays of morning, rabbits with coats as soft as moonlight, and deer with antlers of silver roamed freely in this peaceful, radiant sanctuary. All creatures in the garden thrived under the endless embrace of Amaterasu's light. But today, as Amaterasu walked among the glowing flowers, she noticed something unusual. A single bloom, unlike the others, seemed to be wilting. Its golden petals, which had once shone brightly, now drooped with a faint greyness creeping along their edges. Sunlight that kissed the garden with warmth and life seemed to falter as it touched this flower. Amaterasu knelt beside the flower, her fingers grazing the soft petals. She could feel the warmth of the garden. Something was wrong. There was a subtle chill in the air. A shadow had begun to creep into her sacred space. A soft sigh escaped her lips as she traced the edges of the flower with her fingertips. "This is no ordinary flower," she murmured. "A shadow is trying to claim it." She closed her eyes, and for a moment, her thoughts wandered back to the mortal world. Her light had always been constant there, a steady beacon of warmth for all who lived below. But recently, she had sensed something shifting, something unseen, deeply felt. The warmth of her light was beginning to soften, and the shadow she felt now had begun to reach even beyond her garden. "I must see this through," Amaterasu said, rising to her feet. With a sudden movement, she lifted her arms, and the garden glowed brighter. But the dimness around the flower remained. With a final glance at the fading petals, Amaterasu made her decision. It was time for her to journey beyond the garden, to understand what had caused this disturbance, and to restore the balance of light that she had long guarded. Beneath the heavens, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and the vast, fertile rice fields, lived a young girl named Kiko. She was known for her gentle spirit and boundless curiosity. Every day, she would sit outside her grandmother's cottage, her face turned toward the sky, her heart filled with the warmth of the sun. She loved the way the golden light would dance across the fields, making the rice stalks sway as if they were alive, bowing to the rhythm of the wind. Lately, though, something had felt different. The sunlight that Kiko had once felt was strong and vibrant now seemed softer, as if it were losing its strength. The air was still warm, but there was a quiet heaviness, as if the very earth itself had become tired. She had noticed it first in the fields, where the crops seemed to grow slower, and then in the village, where people spoke in hushed tones, aware of the quiet change, but unsure of its cause. One evening, as Kiko sat outside with her grandmother, watching the sun set behind the hills, she voiced the thought that had been growing in her heart. "Grandmother, have you noticed that the sun feels different lately?" Her grandmother, a woman with silver hair and eyes full of wisdom, looked out at the horizon where the last golden rays kissed the earth. "Yes, my dear. The sun's glow is not as bright as it once was. It is as if something is dimming it." Kiko tilted her head, puzzled. "But why? The sun has always shone so brightly, so strong. What could make it change?" Her grandmother's gaze softened. "The light we see is not just the sun, Kiko. It is the reflection of something much deeper. The world itself is like a garden. And when something disturbs that balance, it affects all of us. Kiko frowned. What could disturb it? What could make the sun change? Her grandmother paused, her gaze drifting toward the distant hills, where the sun was now just a faint glow on the horizon. Perhaps it is the heart of the sun itself that has become troubled. The goddess who watches over us, Amaterasu, may be in need of something. Amaterasu? Kiko asked, her voice filled with wonder. She had heard stories of the sun goddess, of how her light brought life to the earth. What does she need? Her grandmother smiled gently, her eyes twinkling. Perhaps she needs someone to remind her why she shines. Sometimes, even the brightest light needs help to find its way. That night, as Kiko lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the sun goddess. She stared up at the sky, watching the moon's silver light dance across the village. She thought about the fading sunlight and the sadness that seemed to hang in the air. Suddenly, she felt a warmth, a soft, golden glow emanating from the window. She sat up, her heart racing. The glow grew brighter, filling the room with light that felt both gentle and powerful. Kiko gasped as the figure of a woman appeared before her, radiant as the sun itself. She wore robes woven with threads of gold, and her presence was both calming and overwhelming. Kiko, the woman spoke, her voice as soft as a summer breeze, yet filled with a quiet authority. I am Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, and I have come to seek your help. Kiko's eyes widened with awe and surprise. Amaterasu, you've come for me. Amaterasu nodded, her golden eyes filled with warmth. The sun's light is fading, and I cannot restore it alone. I need someone to remind me of the power of light, the power of warmth, and the power of sharing it with others. Will you help me, Kiko? Kiko, still in awe, slowly nodded. I'll help. I'll do whatever I can. With that promise, the goddess took Kiko's hand, and together they stepped into the light, embarking on a journey that would not only change the course of the world, but also teach them both the true meaning of light and the heart that must share it to keep it burning brightly. The air around Kiko shimmered as Amaterasu extended her hand. With a soft smile, the goddess's fingers brushed Kiko's arm, and in that moment, a warm golden light enveloped them both. The world around them blurred and swirled, and Kiko felt a sensation like floating, like the earth itself had become a distant memory. When the light settled, Kiko found herself standing in a place beyond the reach of time. Above, the sky was a canvas of golden hues, brighter than anything she had ever seen. Below her, the ground sparkled like a carpet of precious gems, bathed in the soft glow of a perpetual sunrise. The air smelled of fresh blossoms and morning dew. This is the Celestial Garden, Amaterasu said, her voice gentle but full of power. Here, my light is born. It is where I come to rest and restore the balance of the world below. Kiko looked around in awe, her eyes wide with wonder. It's more beautiful than I ever imagined. Amaterasu smiled. It is the reflection of the light I share with the world. Every flower, every tree, every creature here thrives because of the warmth I give. But now, something is changing. They walked together, and Kiko marveled at the garden's beauty. But as they ventured deeper, something caught her eye. Glimmers of light that once shone brightly were beginning to fade, and some of the flowers drooped as though they lacked the strength to stay upright. The air that had once been warm and comforting now felt slightly colder, like the first hint of winter's breath. Kiko's heart sank as she noticed the delicate petals of a flower slowly losing their glow. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Amaterasu looked at the flower, her golden eyes darkening with sorrow. "A shadow is creeping into my garden, into my heart. It seeks to extinguish the warmth I give, not just here, but in the world below. Something, someone, has disturbed the balance of light, and it is pulling at the very core of my being." Kiko's brow furrowed. But why? What could be causing it? Amaterasu sighed, the weight of ancient wisdom in her voice. "The shadow is not an enemy. It is a part of me, an old sorrow I thought I could banish. When I sealed my grief long ago, I believed I could shine forever, untarnished by the darkness that had once threatened me. But I cannot escape the truth that light and shadow exist together. Without one, the other cannot be." Kiko took a step closer, her eyes filled with compassion. "You tried to hide your sadness, didn't you?" Amaterasu nodded. "I believed I could keep the world safe from the weight of my own emotions, but in doing so, I have weakened my light, and now the garden fades with it." Kiko thought for a moment. "You're saying that your grief is like the shadow that has found its way here?" The goddess nodded again, her gaze distant. "Yes. My sorrow has been locked away for so long, but it cannot be ignored forever. It is time for me to face it, truly face it, and allow the light and shadow to find their balance once more." Kiko's heart swelled with empathy for the goddess. "You don't have to do it alone," she said softly. "I'm here to help you." Amaterasu turned to her with a warm smile, her golden eyes glistening. "Thank you, Kiko. Your light is bright, even in your youth. Perhaps it is the reminder I need." Amaterasu led Kiko deeper into the garden, past glowing streams and trees that shimmered like the stars themselves. The air grew heavier as they approached a dense grove at the heart of the garden, where the shadows seemed to grow thicker. The trees here were ancient, their branches twisting and intertwining in intricate patterns. The flowers had started to lose their golden sheen, their petals hanging limp as if drained of their life force. "This is where the darkness has settled," Amaterasu said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is not just a shadow that moves through the garden. It is a memory I have tried to suppress." Kiko followed the goddess, her feet silent on the soft, moss-covered ground. The deeper they went, the more Kiko could feel the weight of sorrow hanging in the air. The once vibrant creatures of the garden were now still, their eyes dim with unease. The wind had quieted, and even the sunlight above seemed to struggle against the encroaching gloom. Amaterasu came to a stop at the foot of a great tree, its trunk wide and twisted, its bark shimmering with a faint golden hue. "This tree," Amaterasu said, her fingers lightly grazing its surface, "was once the heart of my garden. It symbolized my light and strength, but it too has felt the loss of my inner peace." Kiko's hand brushed against the tree's bark. It felt warm, but there was an underlying sadness that seeped into her fingers, as though the tree was mourning something. "What happened?" Kiko asked, her voice gentle. Amaterasu closed her eyes. "Long ago, there was a time of great loss. The light I gave the world was dimmed by fear and doubt. The warmth I once radiated faded as I became consumed by my grief. I thought I could leave it behind, but as the years have passed, I realized that it has never truly gone. It has simply been waiting, silently growing in the shadows." Kiko looked up at the tree, understanding now what had happened. "It's not just about the light you give to others, is it?" she asked softly. "You need to give yourself the light too." Amaterasu opened her eyes, meeting Kiko's gaze. "Yes, I have always given to others, thinking that was the only way to shine. But I have forgotten to embrace my own light, to nurture it, to heal the parts of myself that have been broken." The goddess's hand hovered over the tree's bark, and a soft golden glow began to emanate from her fingertips. Slowly, she began to speak, her words like a prayer whispered to the ancient tree. "I release my grief, my fear, and my doubt. I embrace all that I am, both light and shadow." As she spoke, the tree began to pulse with warmth, the shadows around it retreating as the golden light grew stronger. The flowers around them started to bloom once more, their golden petals opening to the sunlight as if awakened from a deep slumber. The creatures of the garden stirred, stretching and shaking off the remnants of the dark energy that had clung to them. Kiko watched in awe as the garden began to heal, feeling a warmth spread through her own chest. She realized then that Amaterasu was not just sharing her light with the world, she was learning to share it with herself. And in doing so, the world would begin to shine brighter once again. The garden had begun to come alive once more. The once fading flowers now bloomed with vibrant golden light, their petals shining brightly as though the very rays of the sun had been captured within them. The trees that had once drooped under the weight of sorrow now stood tall, their branches reaching out in joyful arcs, laden with fruits of every color. The creatures, foxes, rabbits, and deer, returned to their playful dances through the grass, their eyes full of wonder as they felt the warmth return to their lives. Kiko stood at the heart of the garden, her heart alight with the energy of renewal. She turned to Amaterasu, who stood by the great tree, her hands still glowing with the soft golden light. Her face, once weary with sorrow, was now filled with peace and understanding. "You did it," Kiko whispered. "You've brought the light back." Amaterasu smiled, her gaze gentle. "It is not just my light that shines now, Kiko. It is the light we all carry inside ourselves. We can only give what we've allowed ourselves to accept." Kiko looked around at the beauty of the garden, the creatures, and the flowers. She could see the difference now. There was a deeper connection between all of them, a shared warmth that had never existed before. "It's like the light isn't just in the sun anymore," Kiko said softly. "It's in all of us." Amaterasu nodded, her eyes twinkling with a wisdom beyond her years. "Yes, and that is why it is important that we share it. When we keep it to ourselves, it begins to fade. But when we open our hearts, when we embrace one another's light, we grow stronger. The world grows brighter." Kiko thought back to her own village. She remembered the quiet unease in the air, the people moving slower, as though they were waiting for something. Now, she could feel the warmth of her own heart growing, her spirit rekindled with the knowledge that she, too, could share her light. "I think I understand now," Kiko said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "I've always thought of light as something outside of me, something I could only receive. But it's inside me too." Amaterasu nodded approvingly. "Yes, Kiko. And that is why you were able to help me. Your light, pure and unburdened, was able to awaken mine. And now, together, we can share it with the world below." Kiko felt a surge of warmth in her chest, like the first rays of dawn breaking across the horizon. She had always known there was something special about the sun, but now she realized the true beauty of it. It was not just about brightness. It was about the shared light between all beings, the unity that connected them. With the garden restored and the balance of light and shadow finally achieved, Amaterasu and Kiko stood together, looking out at the horizon where the golden sun began to sink behind the hills. The shadows of the garden had been dispelled, and the vibrant light now stretched over the entire realm. The air was thick with peace, and the once muted creatures were now singing in joyous harmony. "It's time," Amaterasu said, her voice serene. "The world below awaits." Kiko nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. She could feel the light within her, a deep, quiet power that now pulsed with certainty. "I'm ready." Amaterasu extended her hand, and the two of them were bathed in a soft golden light. The sensation of floating returned, but this time, there was no sense of fear or unease, only a gentle, steady warmth. As they descended from the Celestial Garden, the landscape of Kiko's village slowly came into view. The familiar rice fields, the thatched roofs of the cottages, the people who had once seemed so distant now stood waiting, as if they, too, had felt the shift in the air. They landed softly near the edge of the village, where the fields stretched wide, and the scent of earth and greenery filled the air. Kiko's grandmother stood at the door of their cottage, her silver hair gleaming in the fading sunlight. When she saw Kiko and Amaterasu, her eyes widened with wonder, but her heart remained calm and knowing. "Grandmother," Kiko said softly, her voice filled with warmth. I've learned something today. Light is not just something we see. It's something we share. And it starts from within." Her grandmother smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "I knew you would understand, Kiko. The light you carry in your heart has always been there. Now, you simply know how to let it shine." Kiko turned to Amaterasu, who stood beside her, glowing with the quiet radiance of the sun. The goddess smiled at her, a quiet affirmation of the journey they had shared. "It is time for you to return to your world, Kiko. But remember, my light is always with you, just as yours always shine in your heart." Kiko nodded, feeling the warmth of Amaterasu's words settle deep within her soul. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll carry this light with me, always." As Amaterasu began to fade into the twilight, her golden form dissolving into the horizon, Kiko stood still, watching the sun sink into the sky. She felt a deep peace, knowing that the light was never far from her. It was not just in the sun, but in the way she treated others, in the kindness she offered, and in the love she shared. The village, too, seemed to glow with a new energy. The people walked with a newfound lightness. The air felt warmer, and the fields shimmered with the soft glow of the setting sun. Kiko smiled as she watched the world around her, knowing that her light and the light of those around her would continue to make the world a brighter place. The days following Kiko's return to the village were filled with subtle changes. The air felt warmer, even during the cool mornings when the fog still clung to the earth. The villagers, too, seemed to carry a different kind of energy, a quiet hum of joy that wasn't there before. It was as though a hidden warmth had been ignited in each of their hearts, a light they hadn't fully realized they possessed. Kiko's heart swelled with happiness as she walked through the village. The children played with abandon, their laughter ringing through the air like the sweetest melody. The elders smiled with a new kind of contentment, their eyes shining with a wisdom that seemed to have been awakened from a deep slumber. It was clear that the garden's light had not only touched Kiko, but had also reached her village in ways she had never imagined. As she passed through the village, she found that the once distant faces of her neighbors now felt like family. They exchanged knowing glances with her, as if they, too, had learned the value of embracing their own inner light. One evening, as Kiko stood by the village's edge, watching the sun dip beneath the horizon, her grandmother came to stand beside her. The old woman's presence was a steady, reassuring force, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of many seasons. "Grandmother, everything feels different," Kiko said softly. "It's as if the light in me is now in everything around me." Her grandmother smiled, her face illuminated by the soft glow of twilight. "Yes, my dear. That is the beauty of true light. It doesn't just reside in one person. It touches everything it encounters, spreads outward, and grows stronger with every soul it reaches." Kiko's gaze softened as she watched the sky turn from gold to deep purple. But why didn't we see it before? Why didn't we know that the light was inside us all this time? Her grandmother's voice was gentle but filled with understanding. Sometimes, we are so busy seeking light from the outside that we forget to look within. The world has a way of clouding our hearts, of making us think that warmth and peace must come from something or someone else. But it has always been inside us, waiting to be recognized. Kiko took in her grandmother's words, feeling them settle deep within her. It was true. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that her light had always been there, quietly shining, waiting for her to embrace it. Her grandmother continued, her voice filled with quiet strength. Now that you have seen your light, my dear, you must share it. Just as the sun shares its warmth with the earth, so must you share your light with others. It is through that sharing that the world becomes brighter. Kiko nodded, a quiet resolve settling over her. I will. I promise. The seasons began to change, and with them, Kiko's sense of purpose grew stronger. She had learned that light, in its purest form, was not just a gift to be received, but something to be shared with those around her. Every act of kindness, every gesture of warmth, every smile she gave was an extension of the light she had come to understand. One morning, as the village awoke to a new day, Kiko found herself walking toward the nearby river, her heart light with the knowledge she had gained. The sun's rays stretched across the water like golden threads, and Kiko felt a sense of peace settle over her as she gazed at the reflection of the sky on the river's surface. She had always loved the river, its quiet flow a reminder that time, though ever moving, was also constant. But today, something felt different. The water, though still and calm, seemed to carry a deeper meaning, as though it too was connected to the light in her heart. As she knelt beside the river, her fingers grazing the water's surface, a voice broke the stillness. It was soft, filled with the weight of deep emotion. Kiko? She turned to see a familiar face. Her friend, Haru, standing just a few steps away. Haru had been a quiet, thoughtful boy, always watching the world with a curious, distant gaze. But today, there was something new about him. His eyes, once uncertain, now gleamed with a quiet light. Haru, Kiko said, standing up. What's the matter? He stepped closer, his voice tinged with vulnerability. I've been thinking, Kiko. You've changed. You've been different ever since you returned from the mountain. There's something about you now, something I can't quite explain, but it feels like you've discovered a secret. Kiko's heart swelled. She had felt this too, but had never quite put it into words. I have discovered something, she said softly. It's not a secret, really. It's just that I've learned how to embrace the light inside of me. Haru looked at her, his brow furrowing in confusion. The light inside of you? Kiko nodded. Yes, it's something we all have. It's not something that comes from the outside, from the sun or the stars. It's inside us, in our hearts. And when we share it, the world around us becomes brighter. A long silence stretched between them as Haru seemed to absorb her words. Then he slowly smiled, a smile that seemed to brighten the world around him. "I think I understand," he said. "I've been afraid to let my own light shine, but maybe it's time I let go of that fear." Kiko smiled back, her heart full of joy. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. Your light is already there, Haru. All you have to do is share it." And with that, Kiko and Haru stood side by the river, their hearts alight with the knowledge that they, too, could make the world a brighter place, just by being themselves and sharing the light within them. As they walked back toward the village together, Kiko couldn't help but feel that the ripple of light they had started would continue to grow. Every small act of kindness, every gentle word spoken, would carry that light further until it reached every corner of the world. The sun began to rise higher in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the land. Kiko knew that the light she had discovered within herself was not just her own. It belonged to the world, and it was through the sharing of it that she could bring warmth and peace to all she touched. The days flowed into weeks, and the village seemed to blossom with the warmth that Kiko and the others had come to understand. The villagers moved with a newfound purpose, their hearts brimming with the light they had once overlooked. It wasn't just the kindness between neighbors or the shared moments of joy. It was a deep, unspoken connection, an understanding that the light they each carried within was part of something far greater. Kiko felt the change more profoundly each day. She had become a quiet beacon for her people, sharing stories of the sun goddess, Amaterasu, and the beauty of the Celestial Garden. Her words, always spoken with the gentlest warmth, inspired those around her to discover the light inside themselves, to embrace it and share it without fear. One evening, as the village gathered around a large fire in the center of the town square, Kiko stood beside her grandmother, her heart full of peace. The warmth of the fire mirrored the light they all shared, and as the flames flickered, she realized that this was what Amaterasu had meant. The fire, though small, cast a glow that reached out and touched everything around it. The villagers were singing, their voices rising in a gentle harmony that filled the air, their faces glowing with joy. Kiko smiled as she watched them. It was as though every person in the village had unlocked their own inner light and now shared it with one another. They were like stars scattered across the night sky, each shining with its own unique brilliance, but all part of the same vast universe. Her grandmother, standing beside her, watched the scene with a serene expression. "See how the light of one heart can spread to so many?" she asked, her voice soft but strong. "The world was always waiting for this, Kiko. It's not just about the sun or the stars. It's about the way we choose to shine, even in the darkest of times." Kiko nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's amazing, isn't it?" she said. "How much we can change just by sharing what's inside of us." Her grandmother smiled, her eyes twinkling with the wisdom of many seasons. "Yes, my dear. It's through sharing our light that we make the world a brighter place. And the more we share, the more light we will have to give. As the night wore on, the village became a place of warmth and harmony, a reflection of the celestial garden that Kiko had once visited. She realized then that her journey wasn't just about her own light. It was about the way her light had sparked a chain reaction, reaching far beyond the village and into the hearts of those who were willing to embrace it. The seasons shifted again, and the light continued to spread, not just in the village, but beyond it. Travelers from distant lands passed through, drawn by the whispers of a place where warmth and peace flourished. They too began to feel the pull of the light, and each one who arrived was welcomed with open arms and open hearts. One day, as Kiko walked through the village, she felt a familiar presence beside her. She turned and saw Amaterasu, standing just beyond the village, her glowing form softly illuminated by the setting sun. The goddess smiled at Kiko, her presence as serene as it had been when they first met. "You've done well, Kiko," she said, her voice like the soft hum of a summer breeze. "The light you have shared has reached far and wide." Kiko felt a rush of warmth and humility as she looked at the goddess. "But it's not just me, Amaterasu. It's everyone here. The light we share has multiplied. It's in everyone." Amaterasu nodded, her expression gentle. "That is the way of light. It is never meant to be kept to oneself. It grows stronger when it is shared, and it touches the lives of many. What you have done here is not just a gift to your village, but to the world." Kiko's heart swelled with joy, but she felt something else stir within her, an understanding that had taken root over time. "I thought the light was something that came from the outside," she said quietly. "But now I see that it comes from within us all. We just have to let it shine." Amaterasu's smile deepened, and for a moment, it seemed as though the very sun itself brightened around them. "Yes, Kiko. And when we allow our light to shine, it is never extinguished. It simply multiplies and spreads, creating a garden of endless light." As the goddess spoke, Kiko's heart felt a deep peace, connection to something far greater than herself. The light she had learned to share was not just her own. It was the light of all the people she had touched, of every person who had opened their heart and allowed it to shine. It was the light of the world itself, and it would continue to spread, reaching every corner of the earth. Looking out at the village, Kiko realized that the Garden of Light was not something that existed in a faraway place, like Amaterasu's Celestial Garden. It was here, in the hearts of those who chose to share their warmth and kindness with others. It was an endless garden, always growing, always blossoming, with no end in sight. And as the sun sank below the horizon, casting its golden glow over the village, Kiko smiled, knowing that the world would continue to shine brighter, one small act of light at a time.